Cars. Here in the US, they're a staple of everyday transportation, especially when you live anywhere outside of cities like Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles, where they have subway systems. But is this the same case everywhere else in the world? During our travel study to Germany, we visited many different locations throughout the southwestern portion of Germany to find out where our most popular form of transportation in the US came from, as well as how other countries take advantage of the transportation methods that are available to them. Germany and automotive manufacturing go hand in hand, as in the 1870s, Carl Benz and Nicholas Otto began work on the four-stroke combustion engine, which they then used to create the first automobile. Although Carl Benz created the vehicle, it was actually Benz's wife who was the first person to drive that same vehicle and allowed engineers in the field to develop the automobile further. As we can see here, the first automobile started with Mercedes-Benz back in the 1800s. This is the first vehicle prototype ever made, which has now evolved into the automobiles that we see today. After the introduction of the automobile into the German economy, production of automobiles would continue to increase and be treated as a luxury item up until the Great Depression. German automotive manufacturing would get a massive boost in the 1930s with the support of the Nazi Party. Adolf Hitler himself was a massive proponent of the technology, having once called it mankind's most marvelous means of transport. Alongside the other means of propaganda on what a Nazi Germany would eventually look like was Volkswagen, also known as the People's Car. The company promised a consumer-grade car that would turn cars from a luxury item into something that the average German could afford, firmly associating the car with the ideal German life. After the war, manufacturing in Germany took a massive hit, but was able to recover relatively quickly, with many car brands keeping the spirit of German auto manufacturing alive. This would eventually lead to what is commonly considered the big three of German automotive companies: Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. Needless to say, cars are an important part of the German manufacturing sector and make up a significant portion of their economy, making up over 730,000 jobs in Germany alone. Mercedes-Benz in particular is a highly versatile and universal automotive manufacturer in Germany. While they're primarily known for their role as a luxury car maker in the United States, in Germany, they fill many more roles, with things like consumer cars, vans, and even buses, with the iconic Mercedes star logo being a common sight throughout the country. This begs the question, truly how important are cars to everyday transportation in Germany? We reached out to a student who has been to Germany before and is familiar with public transportation to get her viewpoint on the topic.
So last time I came here, I was with my German teacher and he kind of led us through all the public transport. The first couple of days it was really overwhelming because you're just moving through crowds of people and you're like, where am I going? And I guess my group was smaller then, so even then it was overwhelming with just a small number of people. But I would say it was easier because someone else was guiding me through it, and I was younger then, so I was like, just take me wherever you want me to go. And that was basically it. But I'm glad I didn't have to navigate it myself, because if I had to, it would not have gone well.
Since Zoe had stayed with a host family in Germany before, we asked her about how they would use their car.
So last time I came here, I stayed with a host family in Cologne, and they didn't really use their car very often. If something was a short distance away that was, feasible to walk, we'd walk there. If it seemed a little bit too far, we'd take a taxi. They had a family car, but they tried to use it as least as possible just because gas is expensive here. You don't really want to pay for it. And so any way to avoid that is for the best. And we would often take buses as well.
Unlike Americans, the Germans have many more options to choose from when it comes to means of public transportation. The country has a massive high-tech train network that can take you virtually anywhere you would like to go, as well as to neighboring countries depending on the city. We interviewed two students who have never been to Germany before about the differences and difficulties they have experienced while navigating public transportation.
I would say that it's been really interesting having 30 people trying to navigate public transportation. If I was doing this alone, I probably would not have the same success that I'm having with all of these people, but it's definitely been an interesting experience.
For me personally, I was just saying today that it's really cool that you can just jump on a train and pretty much go somewhere that's completely different from where you are now. As for navigating it, I don't think I could do it on my own because I was looking at that and I was like, what's going on?
Cities in Germany also tend to be much more pedestrian and bicycle friendly than in the United States. Rideshare apps such as Uber allow people to reach destinations that buses and other public transport can't reach, further allowing citizens to avoid the need for a personal vehicle. We interviewed a local resident to get their thoughts on using ride-sharing apps and other methods of public transportation.
Actually, I use all kinds of transportation, so for my day to work, but it's also relatively close. It's about 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, so about a mile. I usually use my bike, actually, so that would be considered, I guess, public transportation. And I actually do use the buses that run. We don't have a train system here in Wiesbaden.
Aside from public transportation, we asked Nadine how she felt about rideshare services like Uber.
I think the one time I've used it was in Poland, so not very often, but I know people that use it more often, but yeah, I don't really.
Lastly, we asked Nadine what she uses her car for and why she chooses to use public transportation over her personal vehicle.
Basically, we've had this car for a long time and it's really too expensive to just sell it. So this is why it stands around a lot, actually on the parking lot. And I don't like to use the car in the city because there's so much traffic in here. So you really within the city, it takes you longer very often to use the car, and then you always have the parking problem, which is expensive, and it's just, there's no parking in Wiesbaden.
Based on just these few short examples, we can see clearly how public transportation is much more available and efficient than using a personal vehicle in Germany, making cars less of a necessity in everyday life and instead more of a luxury. People in Germany also tend to be much more environmentally conscious than in the United States. People are much more concerned with energy usage, and recycling is much more of an involved and intensive affair. Cars are also seen not only as a source of pollution, but as an unnecessary consumption of resources, especially when public transport is an easily available and more environmentally friendly alternative. That's not to say, however, that vehicle use is dead in the country. German automakers are aware of increasing consumer concern about fuel consumption, fuel prices, and the environmental effects of these vehicles. As we can see here, German brands like BMW are trying to find fuel alternatives to try to combat the rise in gas prices, so this is helping to try to get more German people to buy and drive vehicles instead of using public transport. Although car sales within Germany may not be where German auto manufacturers would like them to be, we can clearly see that these companies are making environmentally and societally conscious efforts to improve overall vehicle usage in the country. From the first automobile to the substantial increase in popularity of public transportation, we are able to clearly see that the usage of cars amongst Germans varies significantly based on their direct needs, especially the immediate ease of access to public transportation. Regardless of this, cars will continue to be one of, if not the most integral part of the German economy.